Hi, my name is Chris Guest. I'm a 73-year-old retired lawyer. I was born in 1945, so I am actually close to the first of the baby boomers. And as such, I have a pretty good feel for where our generation is going in the coming 20 years, which for most of us is our retirement years. I'm married or was married to my wife Deborah for the last 35 years, but she passed away this past summer in 2019, and accordingly I'm faced with the same kind of situation that a lot of people of our generation are going to be faced with in coming years. 22 years ago, I purchased a property with my wife north of Kingston, about exactly 28 kilometers north of Highway 401, for a retirement project. I've been involved in real estate off and on for the last 50 years, and my idea was to acquire a property that was accessible or had access to good health care. In this case, Kingston is the city I chose after looking at Muskoka, after looking at Haliburton, after looking at several areas west of Ottawa, and not finding exactly the right situation. So this property is close to good health care, good facilities, it's close to rail, it's close to an airport. It takes about 20 minutes to get into Kingston from this property, which is on, for those of you who are familiar with Division Street, with Kingston, it's situated on Perth Road, which is Division Street extended north from Kingston to Westport on Big Rideau Lake. My property is halfway in between. The property that I bought 22 years ago is 220 acres in area and has 6,000 feet of lake frontage on the north basin of Buck Lake. It happens to face Frontenac Park, which is a near wilderness park, a provincial park, where no vehicles are allowed. So essentially my property occupies the south end of the lake, and the park occupies the opposite shore of the south end of the lake. My property abuts the park at the bottom of the lake, so I can walk in from my property to Frontenac Park directly. And in addition, the Rideau Trail, which is equivalent of the Bruce Trail, for those of you who are familiar with that, in the Toronto area, a little west of Toronto, that runs from roughly Milton up to the Bruce Peninsula. It's a hiking trail, and I've allowed the Rideau Trail Association to use my property for approximately a mile of their trail. So it runs from Perth Road into the park through my property, which just makes for an interesting situation. The property presently is divided into 3 parcels, each of which can be developed as a single-family residence under the existing zoning bylaw. My concept is to develop the property to the extent that there is a demand for it, for a unique kind of retirement facility, which doesn't exist at present in Ontario, to the best of my knowledge. So the idea is that people in my target market are like me. They like waterfront, they like wilderness, but they also like to be close to urban facilities and everything that brings with it, and healthcare in particular. The idea is to do a small retirement project, not a retirement home, okay? Something more like a single-family residence, which is what the property is presently zoned for. Under Ontario law, and the Planning Act in particular, it's impossible for any municipality to refuse building permits for a single-family residence based on the fact that the occupants are not related. I'm going to carry that just a little bit further than it has already been carried. There are facilities in Ontario that have been built in recent years for typically 4 to 6 people occupying a single-family residence, either doing their own cooking and their own maintenance, etc., or hiring somebody to do that for them. but it's typically been restricted to 4 to 6 people. I am going to expand that to approximately 12 people. The idea will be that my target market prospects will be interested in purchasing an undivided interest, it's called a tenancy in common interest, in a project which will have common facilities, including a kitchen, a living area, TV area, the normal common areas, laundry areas, etc., which will be occupied jointly and owned jointly, as well as 12 individual, for lack of a better word, call them suites. They will be the equivalent of like a large hotel room with a sitting area, bed area, closets, bathroom, small coffee preparation area, bar if you want to call it that, and will all have water views, but they will be accessible from within the single family residence. And that's what will differentiate it from for instance, townhouse projects, multiple housing projects, or other similar projects. What will differentiate it from normal retirement homes is the size, the scale, and the fact that it will be owned by the occupants. So theoretically, each of my 12 purchasers or investors or buyers, you're not really, well, you're all of those things really, would own an undivided interest in the whole project, would have exclusive use of their own unit, that's being the equivalent of a large hotel unit, and I'm thinking something in the order of 500 to 600 square feet per unit, as well as an undivided interest in the whole. So the difference again between this and a retirement home is that the occupants will actually own the project. There are a number of advantages to that. There are tax advantages, which will be outlined elsewhere in this website. But to summarize, the bottom line is that you will be, if you purchase here and invest, you're investing and you're purchasing, but you're going to be an owner. It's not really an investment. It's just a purchase of a property for your personal use. The difference is that you will own the unit, so you'll be purchasing it without any debt, although you could borrow on the project, but that would defeat the purpose. The idea here is you sell your existing home, which may be worth $1 million, $1.5 million, $2 million, somewhere in the Toronto or Ottawa or Kingston market, and you take a small amount of that, say $500,000 or $600,000, depending on what scale is desired by the 12 purchasers. You take $500,000 or $600,000, you invest it as an owner in this project, you own the project. So you're investing pre-tax dollars. Instead of trying to generate enough after-tax income to pay for a retirement home or an assisted living facility or a rental condo or anything of that nature, you use pre-tax dollars to purchase your interest. That is about half the cost that would be involved, maybe less, if you were to go out and rent a typical retirement home unit for maybe $5,000 to $6,000 a month, or maybe less. You could get down to $4,000 for something, but it wouldn't be anywhere near what I'm contemplating in terms of quality or size. The other advantage is that as an owner, okay, the cost of the accommodation aspect of the project, as opposed to the food, the hydro, staffing, et cetera, that would be involved in a retirement home, the cost of the accommodation aspect, which I would estimate at about 50% of the total cost in a retirement home project, is frozen because you own the project. So your cost is never going to go up. In fact, you will own your unit and your common area interest, and you'll be able to sell that at some point down the road if you wish.